Hello, people of the world watching new car reviews on the internet. Welcome to this, the refreshed 2025 Audi Q7 55. 55 designating the fact that this one has the single turbo V6 under the hood, which we'll get to in a little bit. But first, let's get up in the air, nerd out in the tech specs, see how it's constructed, and then go give it the beans. First things first, exhaust. Ooh, metal, and it's attached to the actual piping. Dual outlet, like a smoked chrome. Oddly enough, the muffler has dual inlets as well. Some honeycomb plastic behind the hitch, which this one is capable of towing 7,700 pounds. As someone that owns an original Audi or Quattro, the grandfather of Quattro all-wheel drive systems for Audi, I'm pleased to say this does utilize a proper longitudinal mounted configured all-wheel drive system, but the rear differential is a Magna-sourced Flex 4, which is capable of decoupling from the front, providing you have just front-wheel drive to save on fuel. Has a 3.204 final drive ratio. Out back, the Q7 utilizes an all-aluminum in construction 5-link multi-link suspension. Rear knuckles made out of aluminum. This one is paired with the adjustable ride height air suspension, hence this giant bladder stuffed right here. The rear dampers are sourced from socks made in Slovakia. If you notice just up above the exhaust piping, this robot barnacle controls the rear wheel steering, allowing for plus or minus 5 degrees of steering out back in contrast to the front wheels during low speeds. It's got some additional square stock steel bracing right here to stiffen the chassis. The rear anti-sway bar, which is mounted front facing on the bottom of the subframe. Whoa, the end links are huge. The axles are pretty beefy too. Measure in at approximately 22 millimeter and change diameter. The 2025 Audi Q7 chassis code type 4M, as you see here in the 55 Prestige trim, is about as high up as you can go without going to the SQ7. So it weighs in at 5,135 pounds. It's got a 2-piece steel drive shaft, the center carrier bearing up above this heat shield right here. That's always satisfying to see. What does that say? Boy, Jägerstedt in Deutschland. It is a V6 with a single turbo, so it means it's dual into single and then back into dual again. That's kind of neat. Mid-pipe diameter measures in at approximately 76 millimeter in diameter, 3-inch SAE piping. As far as the transmission goes, this 55 powertrain configuration comes standard with the ZF 8HP 55, which is a planetary gear set with lockup clutch 8-speed automatic transmission, has a maximum torque input rating of 550 newton meters, which is 406 pound-feet, more than which this engine produces, and the Quattro all-wheel drive system is made possible via an auto-locking clutch-based center differential. The Quattro all-wheel drive typically operates in a 60% rear, 40% front bias, but it can send up to 85% to the rear, 15 to the front, or as much as 70 to the front, 30 to the rear, depending on how the robots see fit. Transmission crossmember is made out of aluminium. Sneaky. I almost missed that. Made in United Kingdom. Quattro. Looking down the driver's side of the transmission, it's pretty simple. You can see the back of the cylinder head over here. It's kind of hard to stick a camera up inside here, but this is the passenger side where the downpipe is at, going to the single turbo in the valley of the block. Well, they sure did give ample clearance. It might look like hairy cardboard, but there's steel underneath there. The side paneling, oh hey. I think there's steel underneath there too. Up front, it again utilizes an all aluminum in construction 5-link multi-link suspension configuration, possibly forged aluminum front knuckles with a dual lower ball joint configuration, again with the beefy aluminum end links and also those SOX air dampers. Front anti-sway bar measures in at approximately 30 millimeter in diameter. Ein Mädchen ist unter einem Flugzeug. And Q7. All right, time for the braking test. Nothing behind me. Ready, set, go. Okay. The seatbelt grips you, and then the heads-up display shows a little red emergency braking thing on it. The stopping distance was shorter than I was expecting. The pedal feedback, a little bit of ABS feedback, very smooth and stable, I can say. That braking was just made possible thanks to a 6-piston front caliper with a 375mm or 14.8-inch front rotor. These wheels are an optional 21 by 9.5, the positive 31mm offset alloy, manufactured in Turkey. The satin gunmetal part is the alloy, but these black pieces, they're removable plastic. Well, that's neat. The lug stud cap covers are also color matched gunmetal, and they're wrapped in a set of two 85, 40, 21-inch Pirelli Scorpion Zero all-season tires. Two of the best Mortal Kombat characters wrapped up in one tire. Inner fender liners are carpeted. Upper strut towers are aluminium, and this is actually in the all-road setting right now as far as ride height goes, so it's slightly lifted. You can see the front vents and the bumper are functional. Behind it is a heat exchanger. There's some active aero shutters behind this satin and gloss black grille. Whoa, does that illuminate? It's got this kind of like translucent gunmetal underneath it. Well, that's interesting. There's like a little LED light pointing to the center right here. Classic placement of the Quattro badge. The rear inner fender liners, while they are carpeted, they have this like honeycomb pillow pattern in them. That's kind of neat. Out back, you go down to a single piston caliper with a 13.8-inch or 350mm rear rotor. The wheel and tire, same size as you have up front. This video is sponsored by me, my very own car detailing product company, RoboBubble, made in USA. And if you'd like to use what I use to keep my cars clean and also support this channel, this is how you can on my website, sarahntune.com. Thanks. In the name of science, it is now time to give this thing the beans. But first, assessment of bolstering. Yeah, it's got some good bolstering to it. It's adjustable. The robots will snug you up. These seats are finished in a light coffee colored leather, super soft. Add some bolster to it. There we go. Oh, even better now that I adjusted the bolstering. What is this? Wait, oh, the seats are massage. I didn't know that. I just pressed a bunch of buttons and now it's massaging me. That's sweet. The seats are both heated as well as ventilated, and you can blow warm air out the vent. They're also memory adjustable, and if I tap on these little dots, the steering wheel is also heated. As far as drive modes go, I have this area down here where it says drive select. I can tap on that and go from individual, where you can custom configure your settings, for drive, suspension, and steering. And then I have dynamic, auto, comfort, all-road, and off-road. To the right of the drive select touchpad, you can touch on ECS Sport. I can move the shift lever down into drive, or I can push it back again to put it into sport mode. If I move it to the right, I can use it in manual mode, where I have some flappy paddles on the back of the steering wheel. I'm not going to use manual mode, but I am going to use the sport mode and let the robots do the thinking. Let's see what this thing can do. Ready? Go. Nice launch. Good. Little surge when it grabs a gear. That's good. That's good. Oh yeah, this thing moves out. It's smooth. It's deceptively quick. It doesn't feel as fast as it's actually accelerating. Pop in the hood. Bitte. Ooh, that's a lightweight hood. And it's got hood struts. Underneath the hood of this 2025 Audi Q7 is the EA839, which is a 3-liter, 4-cam, single turbocharged 90-degree V6 that produces 335 horsepower at 5,200 to 6,400 RPM and 369 pound-feet of torque from 1,730 RPM to 4,500 RPM. Some meaty spots there on the power band of this thing. Aw, man. I wanted to pull the engine cover off to get a look underneath here, but it is, it's not really designed for easy removal. Since the engine cover is not quickly removable, I'll have to stick my camera down inside here. Wow, look at that. Well, that's neat. You can see right here on one of the cylinder heads, the fuel injection system. This is both port and direct fuel injection. That is wild looking. All kinds of barnacles on there. Ah, there you go. You can just barely see. It looks like the wastegate actuator rod that you're seeing, and the wastegate actuator on the turbo down inside there. The coolant expansion chamber looks like some kind of a gummy, like a raspberry gummy. Digging in a little bit deeper on this 2995cc turbo V6, the block itself is made out of something called alusil. It's a hybrid metal, has cast iron cylinder liners as well as aluminum heads, has an 84.5 by 89 millimeter bore and stroke with an impressive 11.2 to 1 compression ratio for a turbocharged engine. Now moving up to the cylinder heads, this does have continuous variable valve timing on both intake and exhaust cams, as well as it does have Audi's valve lift system. It is a chain-driven engine, and the single turbocharger, which is a twin scroll unit, is mounted in the valley of the block. Bosch ECU right here in the driver's side of the engine bay. That is the smartest placement of a windshield washer reservoir right next to the windshield wipers. And, oh, look at that. It's got a traditional vacuum brake booster, not an electronic one. That's nice. You see that little warning label? That is because this is a 48 volt system, so do not connect jumper cables right here. The aluminium core support section to remove and put engine in service position. That is the easiest to access hood release I've ever seen. That goo you see right there on the top of the frame rail is chassis wax to prevent corrosion. Well, let's see what this thing can do. It is now time for the hill climb test. I'm doing a partial on off-road review with this thing since it doesn't have adequate wheel and tire to do the rally special stage. I would just end up destroying a bunch of cacti. I am going to my drive select menu, and then I have all road, which raises the ride height partially, but I also have off road, which raises the ride height all the way up. And I'm gonna need every bit of clearance I can get to get over the breakover angle here at the top. Turn on my trail cam. Let's go. You can go from wide angle to narrow angle. Oh, that's fisheye. Fisheye at a wide angle. You can turn off the parking sensor thing so it's not screaming at you. Wait, front volume, rear, oh, the parking sensor. Yeah, there's all kinds of cameras packed into this thing, off-road trail cams. Not letting any air out of the tires. Traction control is turned off. Very slow run up at this thing, not to give it any advantage. I wanna see the all-wheel drive system do its thing, not just hit it with momentum. Now this is quite a bit of articulation. What? It automatically braked because it saw the hill. Oh, there's a little rock right there, so it... That's awesome. It prevents you from... All right, trying this again. Now I think the robots have calmed down a bit. Is it gonna automatically brake again because of this obstacle? All right, it's not. Good robots. Not even hesitating really yet. Oh, a little bit. Excellent job. I had 2 wheels off the ground right there and it didn't even care. But you can hear I'm scraping a little bit. I lack the ground clearance to do the breakover. Turn off the proximities. It'll do it. It just doesn't have the ground clearance to make it over the breakover angle. So I'd have to take a different line if I want to make it over. That though does show me that the Quattro system is proper, longitudinal, proper all-wheel drive system, if it can tackle something like that. Right there underneath the vehicle, you can see right where it scrapes just a little bit. You can see there's just a section down in the center that hangs slightly below the pinch weld that will scrape first before your body does, which is good. That means you won't actually do any real damage to anything. Even though I couldn't accomplish the hill climb because of a lack of ground clearance and breakover angle, this thing is still fairly off-road capable on 21-inch wheels and highway tires. But what I can do is something that I drive over all the time and I've never really filmed. I think I filmed once maybe with a Jeep, is this section picks up 2 tires off the ground often, and there's quite a bit of articulation to it. So if you have an inferior all-wheel drive system, it'll definitely highlight when you got 2 wheels off the ground. Oh, you can hear the robots doing their thing. I got 2 wheels off the ground. Robots are thinking. Good job. The best way to summarize the Q7's off-road capabilities is that the mechanical hardware is superior. Excellent off-road capability in that department. But this one is highly limited for the fact it's on 21-inch wheels and highway tires. And also, it doesn't have a lot of ground clearance, even in the highest setting, and it's got kind of long overhangs. I would just like to see Audi make something more along the lines of an SUV, something more truck-like, because they have it down when it comes to the mechanical aspects of Quattro to make a superior off-road drivetrain. Watch the taillights when I open the hatch. It's my favorite thing about these. The taillights go up with it. Oh, metal, fancy. This one does have a third row that's currently folded down. Underneath here, that is heavy duty. Jeez. The air compressor is back here. All kinds of gadgets. Man, that is that's super rugged. There's a little net and a storage cubby. This is super soft lined too. There are controls for the ride height in case you need to load and unload things back here. It's not really that high of a ground clearance, so I don't know if you'd really need that. And some foldables. I applaud them for making the graphic actually look like the vehicle, but I'm questioning why that man has no arms. Whoa, the hatch closing button looks like a little TT kind of. This is the first time I've ever sat in a Q7 before, and it's not as big of a vehicle as I was thinking it was. It's roomy on the inside, the back seat, you can see you got a ton of leg room. There's a speaker in the back, in the middle right here. I have my own screen back here. It's got dual zone climate. I've never seen dual zone climate in a rear before. They're heated. You got a dual USB-Cs and a old school round 12 volt cigarette lighter style. Well, that's a neat looking map light. A little eyeball, and it's a little finger trap thingy. Upper middle class shades. What is this? There's a little ashtray in the door pocket. That's crazy. Who lets their kids smoke? The speaker grill in the back's metal. Got a B-pillar vent. What does this function? Well, that's a fancy little cup holder. Do these recline? Of course they do. Jeez. Recline so much it'll let you see my gut fat. Accessing. How does this contraption? Oh, it's robo. Well, the backpack's got electric fold controls. Oh, it's a deep back seat. It's got some depth to it. I feel like I'm in a little pocket. I like this. It's like a little cubby for people. It's got hieroglyphs. 4M. Oh, because chassis is a 4M. They're all the way back, and I'm not immensely crunched, and I'm basically 6 foot tall. It's hydraulic. Plenty of leg room with them folded like this. Oh, this carpeted sides. I mean, a little cup holder. It's a tiny cup holder. Another cup holder. There's no charge ports back here. Map lights look like little robot goggles. Rearmost speaker. Surprisingly flat floor considering there's a drive shaft going through the center and an exhaust. The one thing that Audi and VW I feel do well with their interiors is they style them in a way that doesn't look like it'll get dated and tacky looking as new technology comes out. The dash is finished in a super shiny piano black, and this aluminum Quattro badge actually has a ambient glow behind it at nighttime. Center console, oh, that's weird. It telescopes. Underneath it, a wireless charge cubby. The side's soft flocked. As far as the infotainment screen goes, I have two of them. I have a separate screen down below for my climate control menu. Audi's infotainment system on the surface is kind of idiot proof. It's got these little icons that are self-explanatory, but there's a lot packed into this. It can be a little overwhelming at first when you're just hopping in this thing and you have to learn everything. Also, there's loading menus. But what's neat with so much stuff being packed into it is you can change the theme of the background wallpaper on your home menu. It even has these crazy little mushroom speakers that grow up out of your dash and disappear when you get in and out of the vehicle. The sound system in here, Bang & Olufsen, this is the best Bang & Olufsen sound system I've ever heard in any vehicle. Insanely impressive in here. It's quiet in here. I feel like the vehicle might be a little bit louder on the outside. It's a good sounding engine. You can hear just little subtle turbo noises just faintly if you really listen. All right, and dynamic. It's very, the steering feel is nice and heavy too. Very squared off and crisp, but soft on the edge. That's nice. It's like a delicate balance between being firm but still softened a little bit where you want it to be. I mean, this is a 5,000 pound vehicle and it's got a tiny bit of lean when you really kind of lean into it. It doesn't have a super high center of gravity. I mean, you can raise the vehicle, but still even raised, it's not like super off-road rig. Over that bump was nice and smooth. Normally in heavier vehicles like this, I say you can definitely feel the weight. I know that it's a heavier vehicle. Just a smidge on an off-camber corner, I felt a little bit of kind of coming up, a little bit of lift to it. Crisp steering. Manual mode. Downshift. Punch it. Smooth. So smooth. Will it shift for me? Yeah, it will. You don't feel a surge of power when the turbo comes on. It's just there. It just happens. I wonder how good the SQ version would be, because it's not even meant to be a performance model, but this is a delight to take around corners. I've reviewed a lot of its competitors from Mercedes and also the Alfa Stelvio. The Stelvio Quadrifoglio was bonkers on performance. This feels more solid driving feel wise than the Merc. Now, little criticism, the fuel economy is a little less than I was expecting. It's fairly quick, but I was expecting a little bit better fuel economy than what I'm getting. Hey, Audi. Tell me a joke.
Sorry, I could not find any results for your search.
Well, Mercedes has a sense of humor because it told me jokes. It is now time to give this Q7 some scores. Starting with the bean score, the assessment of the feeling you get in your gut when you give it the beans. And it earns a rating of... Next is the cookie score, the assessment of value. And as this prestige is equipped, it gets a rating of... Followed by the wrench score, the assessment of ease of maintenance. And it gets a rating of... Next is the squid score, the assessment of handling. And it earns a rating of... There is no meatball score because it wasn't a full off-road review. It had the wrong wheels and tires for that. Is what it is. Lastly is the penguin score, the assessment on how much I personally like a vehicle. And the Q755 gets a rating of... The RS7 would be more kind of my thing, but it was nice to actually get to review an Audi again for once. It's been so long since the last time. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this review. I'll see you soon with another. Bye!